Alrighty, in today's video, I'm gonna take you through my workflow doing a roofing inspection utilizing the Mavic 3T. Let's get started. What's good, everybody? Ken here, you're watching OriginaldoBo, and today's video I'm gonna take you through my workflow for inspecting a roof. Now let me just go ahead and also put out the caveat that I am not a professional roofer. I am a photographer by trade. However, I do get involved with inspections, especially when there are disaster situations or damage situations that an overflow of work will end up coming my way. Now, the work that I am doing this past week is not anything related to Hurricane Ian. This is normal home inspections. This is just inspections for either maintenance or insurance purposes by normal causes. This has nothing to do with the hurricane, but because a lot of the inspectors and a lot of the insurance adjusters are down south handling the situation, I have gotten a lot of requests to do some of the work. Some of it I can field, some of it I can't. So in today's video, I want to take you through just a home inspection on a residential situation where there's no damage on the home at all. And we're basically just doing more of a preventive inspection. I'm going to take you through that workflow. And then we'll also take a look at a metal roof on a commercial application where somebody is looking to purchase this. They've been in that facility for a little while and now they want to purchase this, and they've had some problems as they've been there that they want to bring to the current owner's attention. So a couple of different situations here, but really quickly, let's just go ahead and jump into this inspection. Now, the inspection we have here right now is a asphalt shingle roof. This is pretty much one of the more common roofs that you will see in residential areas. Now, this particular roof is probably about 15 to 16 years old, depending on the finalization date of this build. This home was built in 2006, and that sort of corresponds with the time frame that they suggest for a roof's life expectancy here in Florida. So the first thing I do when I come to a home like this, I do a 4-corner shot of the home. I basically capture photos from all 4 corners at roughly about 70 to 60 feet. Now, one nice thing about the Mavic 3T, it does have 3 sensors, 2 RGB sensors, 1 thermal sensor, and that main wide sensor is a 48 megapixel camera. So I'm gonna have a lot of room after the fact to crop if they need to crop to see additional information. Now, the reason why I'm taking 4 different shots here from different angles is because this roof is on a pitch. Sometimes if you take just one angle, you're not going to be able to see all the details of the opposite side of the roof. So it's really important to capture an image all the way around. Most insurance companies will want 360-degree photos of a roof. After I've captured photos all the way around on the roof, I then go ahead and divide the roof from a top-down perspective into quadrants. Now, typically what I'll do is I'll divide the roof into 6 to 8 separate photos. This will allow me to piece these photos together later or allow an inspector or insurance adjuster to see each individual quadrant. It's also helpful to understand the layout of a home so you know exactly what's underneath what you are photographing. In this instance, this is a single-story home, so I can sort of factor in exactly where each bedroom is, and it's really easy if you walk inside and talk with the homeowner first, you can understand which room you are looking at as you're above the house. All right, so after I break it up into the different quadrants, a lot of times that gives me a good indication of what's happening. Now, for those photos, I was using the zoom lens, and what I was doing was staying up about 90 feet in the air. It's really going to be dependent on how much altitude you are allotted at that location. In this case, for this house, I didn't require any authorization, so I could have went up to 400 feet if I really wanted to, but that's just not needed for an inspection like this. Once I got those photos, I'll typically go through, analyze the photos, see if anything sticks out. The way I've been trained is I look for water runoff patterns, I look for specific buildup, I look for any shingles that are flipped up or possibly detached from the roof. Those are the primary key concerns that we're looking for. The second thing that a lot of roofing companies are looking for is any sort of extenuating hail damage. And utilizing that zoom sensor, I can get really close, maintain some of that detail, and see if there's any hail damage on that roof. Now on this roof, I didn't see any of that. However, I did notice something laying on top of the roof, so I decided to get a closer look. As I got closer to the object, I noticed it was the vent from the dryer vent area. So there's like a protection vent that prevents critters from getting inside of the dryer vent. And I noticed that that became detached. That has nothing to do with the roof whatsoever, but it is something I want to bring attention to the homeowner on, just so they know that, hey, something can crawl up in there if it wanted to. The next thing I do is I go through and look at all the little soffits and all the little vent canisters on top of the roof, making sure there's no separation or anywhere where water can leak down inside of it. If I don't see anything there, I'll typically scan the perimeter of the roof, and oftentimes I will just take a glance at things with the thermal. Now, it's important to understand, just because you have a thermal sensor on this drone doesn't mean you have to use it on an inspection. A lot of times I will not use a thermal sensor unless I absolutely see something, but I rather have the sensor so I can provide additional information, especially if there's a thermal leak or there's moisture under any one of those shingles. This will allow me to see that. It's also worth noting it's a really good idea to do these inspections almost directly after it rains, because moisture will be held there a lot longer. Now, there hasn't been rain in about 3 to 4 days, so if there was any moisture under any of those shingles, it was going to be very hard to see with the thermal sensor. So it's something worth noting on. All right, let's talk a little bit about the more commercial application of using the Mavic 3T. All right, so when it comes to a commercial application, there are an immense amount of different roofs that you'll be looking at. You have your roll-on roofs, which typically don't last very much more than about 12 years or so. They're also the cheapest application of roof. And then you have a lot of these metal roofs, which can last anywhere from 20 to 50 years, depending on, again, your geographical location. Now, this particular facility had sort of a unique setup. It's an automotive shop. It has a pitch roof, but it also has a flat spot of the roof. Now, they've been complaining of high energy bills, and they've also been complaining of water leaking in the back of the shop. So what we were looking for on this particular location was anywhere where there could be water buildup or an area where we noticed immense temperature differences. We're talking about temperature differences of 16 to 20 degrees in temperature change, which the area in which they were complaining that there was water leaking, we really didn't see enough to really prove that, yes, there would be an issue, no, there wouldn't be an issue. Now, as a home inspector, I took my buddy Sean with me, and in normal circumstances, Sean would get up on the roof and walk around. But when it comes to metal roofs, he's even told me he is very, very leery of getting up there and walking on them, because oftentimes there's not a lot of support underneath them, and it's a great way to have an accident by getting up there and walking on a roof like a metal roof. Now, what we did find on this particular commercial application is over the office, there was some patchwork where there was some problems, because we noticed some vast temperature decreases over the area where it was already thermally cooled, but there was still, we're talking about 10 to 15 degree swings in the temperature over the office space. Now, if you look closely and you switch over to the RGB camera, you'll notice that there was some patchwork done to this roof. Now, we wouldn't have known if any of that was a problem if we did not flip it over to the thermal. So it just further bolsters the point why having a thermal camera while doing roofing inspections are incredibly important. It allows you to get that little bit extra amount of data that may be the difference between a claim being approved or denied, or in this instance, providing enough information for the buyer to present to the seller saying, hey, we're going to need a credit on this roof because this section of the roof needs to be replaced. It can no longer be repaired, according to Sean. I did also happen to ask Sean what he thought of utilizing a thermal drone, and this is what he had to say.
All right, so you don't really use thermal drones often, but you use thermal cameras. What do you think of that for what you do?
Honestly, like coming out here to use this today, I was really excited because it opens up my ability to be more accurate as an inspector. But from not just the buyer's side, but from the inspector side, this would open up a world of clients for me for larger scale buildings, for construction sites, cell towers. There's substations. There's so many things that can be inspected with this type of thermal camera that I currently can't offer in my business.
So I got to ask you, when we were talking about thermals and you were telling me that you do it, like you're getting up there, you're doing these reports, how long do they typically take you to do a job like this? If you had to get up there manually to do it, like what are we talking about time-wise? Because that's the big kicker, man.
Yeah, that is actually an amazing point, because there's two answers to that. One is the time answer is that I'm gonna have to get a ladder out. Sometimes I have to get a 40-foot ladder, tie it off, get the proper safety gear. You're gonna look at a 2 to 3 hour inspection, which I've done some large resorts and they've taken me 3 to 4 hours. Where with a thermal drone, and this is before I was even using drones, but drones in general, and then with a thermal capability, you're knocking that down to a 20-minute inspection.
Now, one of the reasons why a lot of home inspectors don't opt to purchase a thermal drone is, one, they're typically pretty cumbersome to unpack and use, and number two, they're pretty costly. A lot of drones are upwards over $10,000, and the amount of times that a client typically will ask them for that information are probably not weighing out the cost of the drone. In this instance, coming in at almost $5,000, this is a lot more practical for the everyday home inspector, to where they can break this out, use this, provide that additional information, and give themselves a leg up over their competition. Now, Sean already has plans to purchase himself a thermal drone as well to add to the arsenal that he already uses. Now, of course, you can argue the point where you could do these home inspections with any type of drone, but the fact of the matter is that you still need to get up close to the objects, you still need to provide thermal information when requested, and the vast majority of roofing companies will ask for that information, and they will want you to get as close as you possibly can while offering the maximum amount of data. All right. That's gonna do it for this video. If you learned anything, if you found anything in this video that was interesting, or have any questions about how I got into inspecting roofs, or how I started approaching roofing companies and approaching home inspectors, I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. There's a link in the description for my email. I'm always helping people that are trying to understand how to leverage their drone to make money and sustain financially. All right, I'll see you in the next video. As always, stay original.
I heard they checking for me, no one checking on me, so I had to go run up a check. I got the message on me, ain't no flexing on me, my attorney gon' call and collect. Blessings on blessings for me, my successes only made them envious, they got upset. I had to put all their egos in check. I want the money, the power, respect, and I heard you know so and so.